There is a special speaker that was conceived and produced starting from the 50s, something that still today is considered a reference. How can that be? Let's discover it in this video today. Okay guys, the QUAD ESL-57. The electrostatic type of speaker that still today is a reference. And in this video, we'll go through the different characteristics, a little bit of history, also a test, and then I will give you my take, my impressions. Yes, because I have a pair right here. And they are something out of this world, completely different. If you don't try them, you don't understand. And that is why I wanted to depart on this voyage and understand better what was all the fuss about. It was a long voyage. It took a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of stress. And I will tell you about this story if you're interested. Otherwise, you can skip. I'm going to do all the little chapters for this long video so you can go wherever you want. Even though I think it's fun, it's interesting to know the different passages that led me to truly understand this, the soul of this speaker, and why it has this so special characteristics. Okay, guys, let's start immediately. ESL-57 is the name of the model, of the first model made by QUAD, the QUAD. Because actually QAD, QUAD, is an acronym and it stands for Quality Unit Amplifier Domestic. I wrote it here. Because in fact, the founder, which is also the designer of this type of speaker, of the ESL, is Peter Walker. And he created, before a different company, then it evolved, and he was focused on amplifiers and other electronics. And then slowly he started to develop this type of electrostatic type of speaker, something unique, something incredible, which only a few years ago could not even be conceived. And still today, if you think about it, it appears almost as magic. Now, in fact, the ESL, which stands for Electrostatic Loudspeaker, 57 is the year when it was first released, 1957. And it was produced all the way down to 1985, even though QUAD did go ahead a little more, but that's the official date of closure. And they produced, they say, a total of 54,000 units. A lot. At that time, the cost wasn't cheap. It was 52 pounds. I did a little calculation of the inflation, which corresponds more or less of today, $4,000 for a pair, though, meaning in the past it was more or less 100 pounds. 100 pounds, $4,000 today. Well, not cheap, as I said. I mean, for the normal consumer, it's a high-end speaker. And it was considered a special type of speaker, absolutely. As someone has defined it, it's the freak of audio, but it's one of the greatest inventions of all time. And even though QUAD did a lot of different types of models, and there are also other incredible brands, the foundation is this, and a lot of audiophiles still have it as for their reference sound, even though a lot of things are missing, as we will see. It's not a perfect combination, a perfect package. Otherwise, we will all have them in our houses. There is some reasons. I'm sure a lot of you already know what I'm talking about, but we'll get there slowly. Okay, what else? Let's talk about the build. It's a considered a two-way dipole type of loudspeaker, meaning that it has two panels dedicated to the bass and a central panel dedicated to the treble mainly. And it's a dipole, meaning that it emanates not only clearly in the front, but also in the back. So it does need a little bit of attention when you're positioning what's behind. And the magic comes from the membrane made out of mylar. And mylar was actually invented just a few years before by DuPont, which we all know for Teflon, And Dupin invented this in 1949, just a few years after the end of the Second World War. Wow. And after less than a decade, there we are. We already have these incredible type of loudspeakers. Clearly, we have a lot of current going in through it. Voltage, actually, not current. I'm sorry. It's static. It's not current. So meaning you have a 10,000 volts there, even though the consumption is just 6 watts. But you have this concentration, and that's why you should never, ever take off the grills. Because if you touch the wrong part, you're dead. But obviously, a lot of audiophiles do take off the grills because the sound is better, as you can imagine. It is a filter, and after all, reasonably, I understand that. But if you have cats, dogs, or children, or anything around your house, even, I don't know, wives or anything, and you want to preserve their life, don't take off the grills. Okay, a few specs. Now, here already comes in the different problems. The frequency response, as you can imagine, is quite restrained, but not that much in the end. And it goes more or less, it says, from 45 hertz all the way up to 18 kilohertz, okay? This is the range. The sensitivity actually is something kind of strange because it doesn't work exactly like normal speakers, so it isn't a clear index on what type of amplifier you should use. That being said, and it goes around, I found different values actually. Some say 89, some say 93, I think. The impedance is so fumbly, so that it's important at a certain length. In fact, you really have to pair these with a tube amplifier or a really, really good solid state that it's capable to handle extreme deviations in the impedance. I mean, we're going up to peaks of 45 ohms, even more, 50 ohms, all the way down to 2. So it's really difficult. In fact, it's also difficult to choose what kind of impedance to hook your the speakers to if you have the option on your amplifiers. Usually, the common sense goes with a 16 ohm load. Although others say absolutely, I tried both, also 8, no problems. And actually, I think, at least with my amplifiers, and I have been using them with my Macintosh, my MC30s, they're perfect, the right amount of power, and clearly they have this output impedance of 16 ohms for the speakers. But I tried also 8, a little difference. Actually, I prefer 16. Probably because there's a little more control. I don't know, but I like that more. It was a little more defined, a little more into focus. So apart from that, let's remember also that QUAD made their own amplifiers dedicated to the ESL-57, the QUAD 2s, which delivered more or less a tube amplifier, mono amplifier, because as you can imagine, in 57, you were buying one speaker, not 2. Stereo came afterwards. In any case, they sold that, and it was a 15-watt amp. So not that much. One would say, wow, 89, 90 dB of sensitivity. With that kind of impedance, you don't need that much watts. Absolutely. And the MC30s have at least even double that. As we have seen on the review of the MC30s, here is a link. If you're interested, you're also going to find all the links in the video description, where I've shown that Steve Hoffman, which is an expert in these, declares that his measurements, he read that sometimes you also have peaked to 40 watts. So there's a lot of power actually in these, but they're nice and delicate and subtle. I mean, they're not power beasts, obviously. An interesting point to take into consideration is that there is a wealth of mods and optimizations out there, okay? Dozens. I mean, especially with I would say 2 main parts, the positioning and what is missing in the spectrum. Because let's say it right from the start. Well, actually, we're halfway through. We are missing clearly some frequencies, as you understood from the frequency response, in the lower register and in the extreme higher register. Okay, we're missing there. So a lot of people try to add a sub. A lot of people try to add a tweeter or a super tweeter. But mainly people are focused on the positioning because they're very low. They're very squished down. I mean, in fact, the typical scene of this loudspeaker where people are sitting down or sitting on the floor or sitting in very low chairs. In fact, I have my nice couch, which is very, very low. And afterwards, I'll talk about the sonics and I'll give you a little more information on this. But it does change a lot how you position your ears, okay, in which part connected to them. It's very, very strange, but we'll get to that. In any case, mods, a lot of mods. There are these famous mods also done by Mark Levinson where he doubles them. A lot of people double them to have more output, okay, a higher sound pressure level. And also with special crossovers, you can divide the different frequencies, possibly even adding a sub or a tweeter, as we said. That's what Mark Levinson did also with his version, the HQD or something like that. Plus, there is the so-called anchor stands, or piedistalli arcici in Italian. Everyone is always talking about these type of stands, which practically grab the speaker and they lift it because they bring it at a better height of your ear. But that depends where you're sitting. So it depends. Everything it really depends from the environment. But apart from that, it's just to underline that there are so many mods also for the inner electronics, the power supply. There's a lot of stuff. So even when you're going to buy, if you want to buy, try to make sure or at least try to understand what has been done, okay? Because otherwise you're not going to listen, feel the true sound of them if a lot of people did a lot of mods or didn't do the right thing. Because also the old ones, all the electronics was submerged in wax in order to fix everything and keep it nice in position and reduce the number of failures. But also that brings a lot of problems when there is a failure, because then you have to redo the whole thing, as we will learn in a while. Okay, now, as we said, Quad terminated the production quite a long time ago. But the good news is, apart from a high number of used models, but it's always a problem because, as you can imagine, the mylar, the membranes, after each couple of years, they start to lose tension, okay? And unfortunately, with some frequencies, they start to vibrate and make little noises. And you're losing also the capability of reproducing those frequencies apart from the annoying noises. So that's a huge problem with these. You really need to have them fully refurbished, okay? I tried, and I'll tell you my story in a while, trying the fast way, the fast lane, but it didn't work. But the good news is that if you want, in Germany, the old distributor of Quad in Germany transformed himself in the new Quad producer. They make Quads today, yes. They refurbish them mainly, and that is why I know about this, because I had to pass from that. And they have all sorts of different accessories, as I said, to enhance the quality. Also a motorized type of stand, very cool. A dedicated sub, designed as a dipole, firing behind and in front. They created this subwoofer, the SQ, I think it's called, which it's quite expensive, $4,000 more or less. Quite steep. But if you want to try to have those extra lower frequencies, that is probably one of the best solutions, because they're making it so they probably perfectly tune it. In fact, they ask if you have the 57 or the 63, because the 63 was the subsequent model of Quad. And I will put the link also where you can find them. And the price for a new pair is also very steep because we are around 8,300 euro, VAT included, which in dollars is 7,400, excluding VAT for a pair. A lot. It's a lot of money for something that is missing some frequencies. Nevertheless, let's always bear in mind that a lot of professionals, engineers, audiophiles all over the world use those as their reference, okay? So before trying to listen to something, I wanted to tell you my story. As I said, you can skip ahead if you're not interested. What happened? I decided before the Altics that I wanted to try these. I wanted to try an electrostatic type of loudspeaker, considered among the best in the world as the type of sound. I love the electrostatic headphones. I had some experience there, so I knew something good was around the corner, and I wanted to try the mythical, legendary ESL-57. So there was a guy selling it an hour from here, nearby Florence. So I went, I listened to them, and at a certain point, I heard a little vibration, okay? He was putting very soft music, classical music, but very soft music. And I said, let's put something a little more beefier. I want to also hear how they were rock or things like that. And in fact, I started to hear some little thrills, some little buzzes. But after a while, they disappeared. At that point, the price was pretty good. And I said, okay, let's go. Let's take them. I'm getting them. So I got them and I brought them back home. And when I said everything and I started to listen with my test CDs, my test LPs and everything, oh boy, it really started to buzz a lot. I immediately contacted the guy, but this asshole said, well, considering it's a 50-year-old speaker, because it was probably coming around it was made from around the 70s, my models. It's decent. Of course, it has some flaws. Well, what do you mean? So he knew perfectly. He put the right music in order to avoid this, although I did have a little sense. So clearly he refused to give me my money back, refused to take them back, and I just said, what the hell? Let's try to refurbish them. Also because if it has these problems, I'm not hearing the true sound, which I was interested. So it will be an interesting voyage to refurbish them. It's going to cost some money, hopefully not too much. And then after I had fun, if they're not my end game speakers, I'll just sell them back. So let's go ahead. I'm started to look on the web, some places. Very difficult to find people who know how to do these. And finally, I found Enrico Lusuardi from Mel Audio, which I have discussed about him in that video dedicated to the 5 amps that never reached the channel. Here is a link. And Enrico was very, very nice and competent because not only he has its own amazing electronics, take a look at that video, but he is also an official refurbisher connected to QUAD Germany of the QUAD ESL-57 and also other electrostatic speakers. So after trying to find the right moment, because he is near Bologna, near Parma, which is a almost 3-hour ride, I finally put him in the car and brought him all the way to him and left him, meaning that I had to also go back and get him. But I mean, we audiophiles do this when we are really interested in something. And there, unfortunately, and only there, I discovered that the price to refurbish them was going to be huge. Very, very big. A lot, okay? Let's just say that together with the refurbishing and what I spent to buy them from that stupid idiot, altogether, plus a little extra enhancement I decided to do, an upgrade, brought me slightly below what is the cost of a new pair. but might as well do that since I did had them there. I like the fact that they are original, coming from the 70s, and it was just the right thing to do. Plus, there was, a difference around 800, 1,000 euro difference with the new ones. Okay, yeah, even more. So we did agreed to do this. It was going to take some time, and I also agreed with, and the upgrade is EHT twin power supply board. Okay, practically you have a power supply with all its resistors dedicated for the two types of panels, which should increase the output, should increase the performance of the loudspeaker. So I decided to do that. That was around 400 euro, if I don't go wrong, each. But since we're doing it, let's doing it good. Let's doing it correctly. Okay. A few weeks pass. Then Enrico calls me. They're ready. Come and get them. I go up. And when I start to listen to them, I hear a difference in the sound pressure, okay, in the volume. But Enrico fiddles around with the amp, and everything seems normal. When I bring them back, I understand, unfortunately, that there is a problem actually with the volume. So I call Enrico, and he is so nice. He came all the way here. He took them back. He brought them back, and he redid the whole electronics inside, because they're not just the membranes of speakers, as you can imagine. There are electronics behind, and he redid the whole thing for just a slight extra cost, because he had to redo both to have the same sound. Okay, oh my god, he was so nice. So this was incredible, and he brought them back. So nobody would do that. He was really, really nice. I must admit, Enrico is a fabulous person. Wow. And at that point, I had my Altics, I had stuff. Time passed by. I brought the loudspeakers in a different place because I didn't have room. Then finally, I brought them back. And during these last days, during Easter time, I finally found some time. I set them up. Nobody was at home. And I enjoyed myself completely. I was a little scared because I know that when you refurbish something, first it needs a lot of burn-in. And then the sound just changes, okay? And I want to say that the sound is a little different. I do sense a little less warmth, a little less, I don't know, just the tone it had is a little different. But things changed while I was listening. And I'm sure that after an intense use of another, 100 hours, something like that, they will probably fall in position. But they already from the start, actually when I heat them up, I used them a little bit, they really started to sing, and the quality was, I want to say this right from the start, truly magical. Something unbelievable until you try them, because it's just magic. What happens when you turn them on? Okay, let's try to listen to something, and afterwards I'll tell you a little bit of my impressions from here, from my sweet spot. Let's go.
This town is a lonely town, not the only town like this town. This town is a make you town or a break you town and bring you downtown. This town is a quiet town or a riot town like this town. This town is a love you town or a shove you down and push you round town.
Okay, guys, now that you have already a first idea, clearly coming from the video, YouTube, compression, things like that, is just a very weak idea, but it's something I wanted to put in the video. Okay, let's start to describe a little bit of my impressions of the sonics that I have recorded inside me after all these hours. Now, first of all, when I was talking about the magic is that it's very strange, because when you put a good recording, all of a sudden you practically sense this music that is completely detached from the loudspeakers. Completely. I never experienced something like that, okay? And it just floats in the middle. Unfortunately, you don't have an extreme wide soundstage. Maybe you could achieve that putting them a lot aside, but when I tried to put them a little more aside, something was kind of changing, and I had to also adjust my position in space. So in the end, I didn't want to exaggerate. That's also why probably people stack them also for that, because you have a little more sound pressure, so you can put them a little more distant between them. So in the end, you do have stuff a little compressed in the middle, okay? But what's inside there? Oh boy, guys, what's in that special package in the middle? It's just pure bliss. It's incredible. You cannot, once again, believe it until you try. And you have to wait around 20-30 minutes before it really warms up everything. Clearly the tube gear, but also the speakers. And at that point, when you put some good music, well recorded, it is a little fussy. When you put bad recorded music or normal, it's same, it doesn't shine. It doesn't, that magic just doesn't appear. I don't sense it that much. You need good quality music, and immediately. In fact, some people use them as monitors, because they just recreate that soundstage, even though it's small, in a special way. The air is infinite behind and around them. Once again, unfortunately, kind of constrained. But what's there really has its own life. I mean, nothing similar. I can compare that to nothing else. It's just unique. Passing to other characteristics, clearly you have these amazing dynamics to die for. The transients are so immediate that it's just overwhelming. When you just start to smile when you put the right music. And I would say mainly, yes, it is more oriented towards jazz, chamber music, classical music also, unless there is a huge wall of sound. Sometimes that you just can't go to those high levels, unfortunately. That's one of the big downsides of the speaker. You can't go too much high, because you're also going to risk breaking them. In fact, when I put some deep bass notes, rock or things like that, you can go up high a lot, okay? I want to underline this. Don't think it's just a little above an average sound. No, it's nice and strong. But if you want to shake the windows, you can't do it, okay? Clearly. Already the amplifiers are not going to allow that. This even less, because when I really had those very profound deep notes, I don't know if you noticed with the Patricia Barber track I put, those notes coming from a DSD file, that's a super audio CD, it goes so deep down that if you hear there is a little slight vibration. And before recording it, I had it cranked up a little more. It was fantastic. I loved it, but it really started to vibrate. That's why also a lot of people remove the grills, because the grills start to vibrate, unfortunately. Not the membranes. The membranes are always moving. They're creating the music. But you start to have problems there. And if you surpass a certain type of voltage, a peak, if you go over that, that's why they recommend the QUAD 2 amp, which has a limiter in that sense. If you go over that peak, you break them. So you have to pay attention. You can't watch movies with thundering sound. At that point, a solid state is the best choice. But nevertheless, I think you heard it from the test. You have a lot of bass nonetheless, because this is a preconception which does have some truth in it, okay? That the electrostatic in general are lacking bass, especially the ESL-57. True, but not as much as you would expect. I mean, it's really punchy, it's really controlled. It's something I experienced with my Planner magnetic headphones. The music they produce when you have enough power is to die for. It's so realistic and juicy and engaging. But you're missing something in the lower register, the bass. But it's so punchy and so nice and engaging, and it just keeps you there, and you do have a sense. I mean, you do sense it is there. It's just not that deep. It doesn't go down viscerally. It doesn't move you. It doesn't push your chest clearly. But no need. I mean, you guys, in the extreme upper part, treble and bass, we're lacking stuff clearly. And in fact, I must say that in the end, I do prefer my Altics altogether, considered everything. But clearly, the main reason why a lot of people fall in love with the quads is the mid-range, as you can understand. As someone said, we live in the mid-range, and that's true. I mean, that's probably the most important part of a speaker. And when that is reproduced perfectly, you have some tolerance for the rest. And this is the case, in fact. It's so darn good. Silky, smooth, dynamic, rich, detailed at the same time. You just sense that the materiality is correct. It's truth. The way it's delivered, nice and fast and immediate. And also, wood sounds like wood, metal sounds like metal, drops of water sound exactly like water, glass, everything is reproduced in such an amazing way that you really start to forgive anything else. It's so darn good. And when you hit the right recording, oh baby, oh mama, okay? Fantastic. In fact, a lot of people try to create monsters with special crossovers where they try to use the quads only for the mid-range, and then they start putting other stuff, as we said, subs and things like that. But you're never going to be able to find that. Well, at least you can. I didn't experience, but the common sense is that, especially for the sub, you're never going to have that quickness, that fastness, that dynamics. I mean, electrostatic is probably the fastest of all. That is also why it is so realistic. Okay, positioning. Now, the best is to have them facing you, and you really have to experiment with the height, because already moving your head a few centimeters changes completely. Guys, night and day. Unbelievable, really. And a lot of people are going to hate that. In fact, if you walk around in a room, it's terrible. It's not good. It's not a loudspeaker that is used to fill in a room. Absolutely not. It's very directional. You have to stand in the right point at the certain distance, and then you'll have all the benefits. If you move, you lose everything. In fact, when I'm back in the couch, I was there a little bit in the beginning, and I said, yeah, good, but something is missing. I started to listen like this. Oh boy, baby. A completely different speaker. And this is also another big downside for a lot of people, reasonably. I understand that, together with all the rest we said before. But, as we said, once again, it is a reference. The answer is yes, it is a reference. Why? Well, very simple. For this incredible mid-range, incredible high fidelity in the mid-range, the dynamics, clearly, these incredible dynamics that you're really not going to find in other dynamic type of loudspeakers or dynamic drivers. I mean, you're just not going to find that there. And clearly also the capability of delivering music effortlessly, naturally, engaging. It just keeps you there and it drags you in. In fact, I listened one of these nights. I went on and on for hours. I had so much fun to put tapes, CDs, vinyl. Oof. Fantastic, guys. Just an amazing experience that really underlines how things were done 50 years ago, and they are still very, very well capable of delivering emotions. Absolutely. The new technology is not always the answer, okay? Vintage does have some secrets, some special jewels that is well worth to re-explore. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave your comments for other electrostatic speakers that you've experienced or the SL-57. I'm interested. And what else can I say? Thank you again for watching, and remember that music is born analog.
Well, guys, if you're enjoying my videos and you're enjoying my channel, please consider to subscribe by clicking the black and white logo here below. Also, don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll never miss an episode and you will become a true member of the analog community.